All right, before we get to the game coming up this weekend, I do want to go back to Mayo and kind of further discuss the idea of him and what's going on with him. Because I know that you wrote that story about Kraft and Belichick and Mayo, and the part of Mayo rubbing people the wrong way in the building caught a lot of attention. You got lots of run for you, lots of Boston Sports Journal promotion, baby, over the last week or so. There's more meat on that bone, because we touched on it a little bit last week. But when you look at this, is there anything I first would ask you? Is there anything you like to add to your reporting? Because again, a lot of people are discussing it. I know Devin McCourty went on EEI and talked about it. Anything you like to add from your point of view, Greg? Whether it's your reporting on it behind the scenes and how you got to what you got, or just on the situation overall?
Not a whole lot. Like, I don't want to get into specifics because I think it might reveal some of my sources, but, I'll start off by saying that even since my report came out and the conversations that I've had, I am 100%, I 100% stand behind my reporting and what I put in there. And, some people have told me behind the scenes that I was actually being, pretty kind to Jerod. Wow. But, look, it's easy to say there are competing interests in this and that, and I'm not gonna deny that. But just the varying sources that I've talked to, behind the scenes with the Patriots, I don't think that's what this is, and I've checked it out with enough people to feel 100% confident in what I've reported, and I stand behind it resolutely. I just wanted to say, because I didn't have a chance on Felger and Maz to say I have absolutely nothing against Jerod. I've never had a bad interaction with him. I had the utmost respect for him as a player. I think he's a good coach. I think the part of the reason why Juwan Bentley and Jelani Tavai are as good as they are for how limited they are is because of Jerod Mayo. And I don't know if this defense would be anywhere close to where it is if he wasn't on this staff. And I was extremely fearful of Jerod, leaving at some point in time, maybe to be a DC someplace else to call his own game, that sort of thing, to further his career and further his resume in the eyes of other people. Because, some people brought up to me, because I've asked the question, and we might get into it here or some other time, about what's the case for Jerod Mayo?
Yeah.
I mean, as the next Patriots coach, I mean, look, do I think he's extremely impressive, extremely smart, tough, can lead a room? Yeah. But to follow Bill Belichick, I mean, at least DeMeco Ryans ran a top defense in the league for a couple of years for the 49ers. So at least he had that, and you could point to that he runs his own side of the building. Now, you could also say Jerod runs the defensive meetings, so that's good, but he's still not out there calling games. So, but I just want to say that I've never had a bad interaction with Jerod Mayo. I have nothing against Jerod Mayo. I think he's going to be a very good head coach in this league. I just believe, and people behind the scenes almost universally believe, this is too early for him, that he is not ready for this. And I don't think this was the plan for Jerod, that this soon would be his time. It'd be more like a year, 2, 3 down the road, as he took on more duties, which he did this offseason in terms of sitting in and on player evaluation meetings, free agent meetings, stuff like that, draft meetings. He was very prominent in those, and that's good. But, look, it's my job. It's not my job to just rubber stamp what the Patriots are going to do. My job is to take every single candidate, and I'm going to start to get into this at BSJ about making the case for even Bill Belichick, the case for and against Jerod Mayo, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, what have you. But it's my job to pick things apart. Just because people think he's the heir apparent. And look, I've talked up Jerod Mayo in terms of, I think there's upside to Jerod Mayo in terms of, yes, he has a lot of, he similar to, and we talked about this before, similar to, Bill Parcells was really good in some ways. Bill Belichick was his understudy, but Bill knew more about player evaluation and other things than Bill Parcells did. So that made him sort of an elevated candidate from Parcells, sort of an evolution. And I view Jerod very much like that with Bill, that he has a lot of, this is all he's known. To me, this is a big minus when you look at the track record of people who have only been here and under Bill. But, if you're the Crafts and you look at it and say, all right, he's got the baseline of Bill, but he thinks of things, he's been in the business world, he thinks of things in an elevated platform, a more universal platform, a more advanced platform, then that's the case, some of the case for Jerod. But I just want to reiterate, I have nothing against Jerod. I think he's going to be a fine head coach, someday. But my job is to take every single candidate and put them through the ringer, positives, negatives, everything, or else I'm not doing my job. And I think that would be the case for a lot of reporters. But just because people have been saying, including myself, for a long time that I thought he was going to be the successor, that doesn't mean that I just let it go and say that's okay. And I just don't feel that I'm doing my job. So this is what people who never steer me wrong. I think there are issues behind the scenes with Jerod. No, I know there are. I don't think they're huge issues. I don't think they were necessarily preclude his being the Patriots head coach. But, to me, you have to look at a candidate in totality, the pluses, the minuses, and I feel that that's what I am doing here. I will do it with everybody. I've done it with Bill. I've done it with every coach, and, I'm sure there are people out there on Twitter who are saying like, well, there are some sort of racial undertones. To me, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like I wasn't hard on Matt Patricia last year or Joe Judge or Bill O'Brien at time. Like, look, I'm just doing my job, I think. And my job is to give people the full 100% picture of what's going on behind the scenes, all the candidates, all the players, and I feel like I'm not doing my job if I don't do that.
FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
I think the plan was clear. You read the Dan Graziano piece going back a couple weeks ago. It's so clear what the plan was. If things went perfectly, the succession plan was Belichick piles up wins this year, piles up wins next year, breaks Don Shula's record, gets the ship steady, another year or so of seasoning for Jerod Mayo to learn under the tree. And then 2025, when Belichick's contract is up and he's in his mid-70s and he's broken the record, c'est la vie, thank you, throw a parade, and and do all of the good stuff. And then Mayo walks in, the transition is there, Mayo takes over a winning team with a young quarterback in Mac Jones who has figured the league out, et cetera, et cetera. And that plan's been blown up. So it's going to be fascinating to see how the pieces are put back together, which brings me to my last question on this before we get to the game coming up this weekend. Sitting here today, Greg, whether it is informed or not, and you can state it on your end, is Mayo, do you think, still the favorite to get this job if Belichick is indeed gone?
The short answer is I'm not sure. This is where, you as a reporter and I feel good about my experience that I have on a lot of big stories. I don't think that there have been many stories like this in Boston. The stakes don't get any bigger. There are, like I said, it's like Game of Thrones behind the scenes, because no matter whatever door the Crafts choose in terms of, do they just make a complete departure from the Belichick era, that's a lot of people out of work that have been in Foxboro for a long time. Yep. And I know there are a lot of, this is where people are looking out for their interests, and I'm well aware of it. I covered, Nick Saban out the door, his arrival, his departure from Miami. I covered Favre, his departure from the Packers. These are big stories, and you have to be very wary as a reporter of making sure that you're getting all sides and everything that you're told from a source, making sure that you go through certain things. There are people who believe that And I certainly, this is one source, but I thought I had to turn it in. It's not, but there are other people who feel similarly. But I had one source say that he thought Mayo was a long shot for the job. I don't know what to believe. I'm just telling you up front right now. That's my reporting. What do I feel? I feel at the end of the day, when you look at the whole landscape of everything, I don't see how the Krafts, given their history and how they came and hired Pete Carroll and how they hired Bill Belichick, how, two coaches who were highly successful defensive coordinators for multiple teams had head coaching experience. And maybe the Krafts thought they didn't get a fair shake. Pete Carroll with the Jets, Belichick with the Browns, and they thought there was more meat left on the bone. I just don't see how Jerod Mayo fits in with any of that. To me, I will think they will look for more of a sure thing, more experience. I could be totally wrong. They could have thought, different things. But my feeling is, and this is just my guess, my personal opinion, I would say the chances of Jerod Mayo being the head coach after this season of the New England Patriots are not very good. And that's my personal opinion.